Good morning and welcome to the Awaken Divergence podcast. Today, I'm going to be going through the stages of my ADHD journey. This encompasses all my life experiences since my first diagnosis of having ADHD. So, there's a lot of learning here and exploration. And once again, based on my disclaimer, I'm not a medical expert. This is just me sharing my experience to see if others in this community have had similar experiences. This also serves as a pathway or potential set of lessons learned that others with ADHD can pull from to accelerate their growth and enable them to become more of who they really are and not just what the label ADHD places upon them. Okay, let's get started with this story. Stage 1, discovery. Now, discovery is quite interesting because that's where a lot of us, that's where our journey begins. It's because we are struggling with focus or motivation, completing tasks, the slew of any of the DSMV criteria. Those connections start being made. We're not making progress in life like others around us are doing so easily. So then we start asking questions of like, why is this so hard? Why do I have to struggle? Why does it come easy to me? Why can't I work in this paradigm of the neurotypical world? And then this drives us to ask questions, to talk to family members. Family members recommend that, we should go see a psychiatrist about this, see if we can get some help. Of course, we're raised in a society where if we have a problem, we should go see a doctor about it. So naturally, that's what progresses, is that we start identifying with the label ADHD as some way of pinning all these struggles to something solid. And this happened to me. And finally, I started to go see a doctor. But the interesting thing is, they were asking me how I felt, what was going on, all these things, but I was never assessed. So my discovery of ADHD was my own self-labeling to then basically take my suffering and bundle it up in a label called ADHD. So that's what I consider my discovery phase. It was asking questions, reading books like Driven to Distraction, talking with family members, talking with friends, and then really just like, what's going on here? If you like the content in this video, please like and subscribe. Next is the hopeless victim. So we transition from discovery to hopeless victim. And you might ask, hopeless victim, what are you talking about? Well, I categorize this stage as the hopeless victim because I was living in a victim mentality that I was the victim of this thing called ADHD. And all I wanted was someone to come swoop in, save me, heal me, listen to me, or connect with me. So that's why I call it a hopeless victim mentality. And what it is a huge lack of self-awareness. I knew I was struggling, but this is where the lack of self-awareness allowed my mind to spin off and really drag me down into a level of depression. So a lot of the doctors thought I was depressed and didn't have ADHD. So they started me on antidepressants, and that really didn't do anything for me. It didn't help in any way, shape, or form. But I just kept, feeling like I was a victim to the situation. I felt like I could never focus. I would never overcome it. I could never, make progress. And I just struggled nonstop. And to compound it, a lot of the things that were going on in my life when I was in college really reinforced that. I could really keep up with the teachers in class, and I was a physics major. I understood the physics concepts and really could take them to the next level, but yet I couldn't focus enough to study to make to do as well as I wanted to do on the tests. I did eventually complete my physics degree, but through that whole time, I was still like a victim to my ADHD. I wore it as like a badge of honor and just felt sorry for myself all the time. And it actually just dragged me into more of a depressive state, kept me at the mercy of racing thoughts, which is more of what I now know is the monkey mind, which is completely controllable. But yeah, that's the hopeless victim. I'm not sure how many people really identify with that, but that's definitely what that phase of my my journey was. I was locked into this victim mentality that I was ADHD and I could never change and I wouldn't grow and I couldn't focus and just like, woe is me. It's just interesting to look back to see how much I've grown since then, and a lot of the limiting beliefs that I was wrapping around myself like a big warm blanket during that phase, I've now shed and turned into something just truly amazing. But more of that to come, and as I progress through the next couple of stages. Okay, let's move on to stage 3. This stage is what I call the magic pill. This is when you've been seeing doctors, you're trying every stimulant you can think of, nothing works. They either think you have ADHD, anxiety, or depression, or even with the overlapping of symptoms, they might even, like I was even considered bipolar at one point. All this without assessment. This is without assessment. No formal assessment was done during this stuff. So things progress. Hurricane Katrina happens, and I have to move to another area. And I'm glad I did, because I was able to find a doctor who wanted to focus on me. And unlike during my hopeless victim stage, I had a new doctor every 6 to 9 months, because they were all residents that were being rotated through. So that really compounded and reinforced the hopeless victim, because I was having to tell my story over and over and over again. But now the magic pill. The magic pill is you're working with a doctor and you find something that actually works. And what I mean by works is by taking this pill, the fog of your life lifts. Things start to connect. You can focus. You can achieve things. It is like Christmas beyond your wildest dreams to find this magic pill and to be able to focus. And that happened to me, and that magic pill phase for me was probably over 10 years long, where I knew what worked. I felt like I had to take that pill every day. I felt like my life was just going to be like I would have to take the pill every day for the rest of my life to be able to function. However, due to my own growth mentally and also through the knowledge of how stimulant medication works, I started to recognize some signs. And this is how I transitioned from the magic pill stage to realization. Okay, so let's review. In my journey, I've gone through stage 1, which is discovery, stage 2, which is the hopeless victim, stage 3, which is the magic pill. Now we move on to stage 4, realization. Now, you might ask, well, if you have the magic pill and everything's going great, what's realization? Realization was me learning more and not being happy with the outcome of just being on the magic pill. The magic pill caused me to sweat a lot, increased like I had a lot of dry mouth, reduced appetite, and I always had the afternoon crash from it, which I tried to balance with caffeine. And this crash came with large amounts of like rage, sensitivity, snappiness. It really exacerbated a lot of my ADHD symptoms. But when I took the pill in the morning, and for most of the morning, I was able to be happy, be motivated, get things done, really be deep about things. However, I wasn't really getting deep into what was going on with my body when you take a stimulant. And that's where, through research, I learned how a stimulant works and what it does. And being that I'm educated as a control systems engineer for my master's degree, I knew exactly what was going on. My understanding, and I'm not an expert, of the way stimulants work is they basically block the reuptake of neurotransmitters, so your body can't have that closed loop feedback system, okay? So when you take a stimulant, it's going to block that closing of the loop of your body going, hey, how much dopamine do I have? I don't have enough, so now I need to dump more. It closes the loop, so it looks like there's no dopamine, so then your body dumps tons of dopamine, serotonin, and other neurotransmitters. That's just my vague understanding of what's going on. And that understanding has actually come from me listening to doctors and understanding, talking to doctors, how those pathways work. But through this realization of like, man, something's not right. I would have heart palpitations sometimes. I'd be sweating, the dry mouth. And then the more and more I learned, because I got sick of having the crashes, I got sick of having the rage. I was starting my family, and this was exacerbating things to where I would react 10 times as intense to things coming down off of a stimulant than I would without a stimulant. So it really, really didn't help my family or my wife with, like, it helped me in my job, but it wasn't helping me in my family. And I was like, so what do I do? Well, during this phase, I actually started taking an additional stimulant. So I take one stimulant in the morning, one in the afternoon to try to balance everything. So I was just like happy-go-lucky the whole day. I even tried taking some stimulants, some supplements that actually reduce the crash effect, which in itself, I was just putting a patch on the real problem. And the real problem was I didn't need to be on stimulants. And it was through that realization that I didn't need to be on stimulants. The stimulants weren't helping my body the way that my body needed to be, that my body, basically it wasn't allowing my body to do what it needed to do to help me become the best person I could be. And through that realization, I actually came across Dr. LeGrand on YouTube, started watching a lot of his videos, started following him, and decided to reach out and have a discovery call. That went great. I signed up for his program, and at that point made the choice, my own personal choice, to walk away from stimulants, which was the equivalent of jumping off a cliff. But through working with Dr. LeGrand to understand the chemical makeup of my body and where my neurotransmitter levels were, and then through supplementation, slowly over a 1.5 to almost 2-year period, reboot my body, I have now been able to focus, concentrate, improve my family life, improve my work life. And my work life is pretty intense right now. It actually feels like if you didn't have ADHD, you would actually have ADHD from the level of task switching my work has. But basically, I wanted to reiterate here that I went from like, oh, I have this magic pill, I'm always going to be on it. This is like my savior in a pill form. It enables me to do all these things. I can achieve so much. But then over time, you start seeing that it's not as magical of a pill as you think it is. And you start realizing like something's wrong here. Like this is not sustainable. Is this gonna, like, there's gotta be another way. Okay, so we've gone through stage 1, discovery, stage 2, the hopeless victim, stage 3, the magic pill, and stage 4, realization. So after realization, I progressed into a stage known as healing. This was not an easy stage. This was really, really, really challenging. After working with Dr. LeGrand, we got myself on a supplementation routine, but I wasn't seeing results. I had taken labs and all my neurotransmitters were on the ground. They were all like way below where they need to be. I felt depressed. I felt very unmotivated. And it was really hard. Even 6 months after being on the program, my neurotransmitter levels had only increased just a small amount from the labs that were done. So it was really hard to tell what was going on. But now I know, after almost 2 years now of being off of stimulants and supplementing and reducing my supplementation, changing my habits, eating cleaner, exercising, and meditating, I have come through a transformational phase of healing. Now, the healing I talk about is basically my body relearning how to produce my neurotransmitters again by me enabling it through giving it the building blocks to produce those transmitters. So basically I'm setting the right initial conditions for my body to do what it should be able to do on its own. And once that started to happen, I started to then progress into what I now call the awakened phase, or the awakening. I've now completed all 6 stages of my journey. However, in this process, I've realized that there's much more material that could be explained about each of the different stages I've experienced. So stay tuned, because I will be putting out additional videos, each focusing on one of the 6 stages. However, for today, here's just a preview. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you like and subscribe.